Hello and welcome to HorsePlayer Happy Hour. This is our Travers preview version, I think we could call it. We're recording this on Thursday. We're not recording it, actually. I mean, we are recording, but we're really going live to you, the world, here on Thursday, August 26th, 2 days ahead of the Travers. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatow, back with you. I'm in the little house on the east side, but it's Travers weekend. And you know what that means? That means the degenerate Flophouse lives up to its name. We've got a host of characters in there coming up with all kinds of betting schemes and other schemes and plans for the weekend. They're in my usual office. They've taken it over. So I sit here at the kitchen table with my bottles of Maker's Mark Private Reserve behind me here. I say Private Reserve. It's Private Select is the name of this program. They're Breeders' Cup sponsors. We'll be enjoying them throughout the course of the show. And we'll also be enjoying the company of a man coming to us from another man coming to us from a little bit different place than usual, but I still think it falls under the general header of an undisclosed location in New England. He is TV's Matt Bernier. Matt, what's up?
I shifted tack for the week, Pete. I went from Maine back to Massachusetts, and I was telling producer Craig, this is my childhood bedroom. My parents'
funny.
house. And there's no central air in the house. It's like 110, 115 years old. So I'm sitting basically in like a little oven. I'm in like a sweatbox right now. So if I start perspiring in the midst of the next hour and change, that's why. It's not because I'm nervous about anything. It's just really hot in here.
Well, now, if you ever get stuck in an elevator with one of the Ortiz boys, you have something to talk about. You can bond 100%. Over your sweatbox experiences.
I can relate to a degree, maybe not quite to the level that those folks have to deal with it, but yeah, I can relate.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, it's great. It's great to have you. I'm imagining all the sports sweats you must have gone through in that room, all your beloved Boston teams over the years. Do you have a memory that stands out? I can still remember watching games. I didn't bring this up to troll you. Still remember watching Game 6 of the '86 World Series in my bedroom on a little 12-inch TV.
You know what? Oddly enough, the thing that I remember most from a sporting standpoint up in here, it's not even one of the local teams. I had come back from. I'm trying to think. It must have been sophomore year of high school. We had a dance at the school, and we got home, and I turned on Sports Center. It was probably 11 o'clock, and that was the night of the Malice at the Palace when the Pacers went up into the crowd, and they're fighting with the Pistons fans. And again, I'm 14 years old or 15 years old at the time, and I'm like, what is going on? This isn't normal. And I'll never, ever forget that coming up like, this has got to be a joke. This isn't real. And they played it, 15 times. That was back when SportsCenter was one of those things that was, much more sports related as opposed to some of the other stuff. But it was, that's the thing that sticks out the most to me. I watched most of our local stuff downstairs, where they gave me the leeway when there was something good going on. They let me stay up so I didn't have to come up here and sweat my rear end off.
Matt, I'm so old. I remember when MTV used to play music videos. So I definitely.
Hey, man, I do too. I do. I empathize with that as well. I do. And now it's all Rob Dyrdek and T-Mom.
All right. But one thing I want to, I've done I'm really enjoying this conversation, but we've got a lot to reset and a lot to do here. I do want to throw out for the world one bit. This will appear on an In the Money Media trivia quiz one day. What infamous major sporting event was our business manager, Drew Coatney, present at? And I'm sure you've already guessed, Malice in the Palace. Drew Coatney was in the house that night.
Could you even imagine being there?
No. He tells it pretty well, too. We'll make him tell that story again, so maybe a few more people will be able to get it. We've got 1 minute to race 8 at Saratoga. Our HorsePlayer Happy Hour contest is already going along. We're getting on with these things. I'll check the official schedule. We've got 4 or 5 of them left. Still time to make an impact. If you didn't get in on this week's game, circle next Thursday on your calendar. I don't know what we're going to do that following week. That's TBD. But next week, it'll be Thursday again. I like this race's 3 through 10 format. Haven't had a chance to see how many people showed up. Are we losing a horse in this race? Is the 3 who was going to be my pick coming out, Matt?
It kind of looks that way. Yeah, we are going to lose one of them. And like you say, a contender in here, not a horse that was a hopeless long shot. Yeah,
this was the horse I was going to put on the ticket. So HorsePlayer Happy Hour. We'll talk more about it. $20 to play, all the money to Thoroughbred Aftercare. We're going to talk more about that, hopefully with a special guest we're going to have pop in for 5 or 10 minutes in a little bit. And, this tour that we have is coming to a head, but there's still every reason to play. Really you could start today and still have a chance at both of the $10,000 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seats that are added to this pool at no cost to players. And the other thing about these shows is that we want to encourage people to join in the comments and become part of the show. So if you have anything about the races this weekend, a thought on the races coming up, please feel free to chime in. And it does look like we'll have that special guest coming in right after this race, which is cool. But for right now, I need to completely reimagine what was going on in this race, because I wanted to play Easy to Bless. With Easy to Bless out, does that mean that the 7 Union Maiden has an opportunity to be loose on the lead in the spot? The long layoff gave me a little bit of pause. The vet scratch from Monmouth gave me a little bit of pause. But we're looking at a race that doesn't have much pace in it, and I wonder if the 7 at a cozy 4-1 could potentially be the one to beat in this spot. Did you have a chance to have a quick look at this one?
I did, and kind of to your idea, I was hopeful the 6 Sharp Star could be one also that got involved in things early on. By no means a burner, but she's a filly who's shown the ability to be forwardly placed in the past. And I guess do with those couple of one-turn races what you will, but she's got a couple of runs at Aqueduct going one turn that they just simply would beat this field. I don't know if she's ready for that. You can tell she's a little chilly on the tote, especially with the way the deposit barn has been rolling along up at Saratoga. Maybe tread lightly here, but 6-1 I think is at least worth a gamble on Sharp Star.
All right, 2 different ideas for you here in race 8 as we get ready to pop. We encourage folks to join us in the comments, ask me any questions. A little bit later in the show, we're going to preview. Should we look at that whole pick 6, Matt? I think we maybe should.
Yeah, fine by me. I mean, some of the races I think we can go a little bit deeper into because maybe they're a little bit more competitive. Some of them do feel a little top heavy. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. But I mean, in terms of if you can construct your tickets correctly, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Totally.
My Union Maiden did not manage to clear in this spot. That might make life a little bit difficult. You okay with the trip you're getting here?
Yeah, I was just kind of hopeful that Johnny would have her maybe not outright on the lead, but she'd at least shown the ability in the past to sit a little closer to the front end. And at this point right here, 7/8, we talked about track profiles on the main, 6.5 and 7. You can come from a little farther out of it as opposed to the flat 6 or even shorter than that. But I mean, look, it's still dirt racing. You'd still rather be more forward than coming from off of it. I think you'll find out pretty quick if the layoff is going to get to her or not, because it's been a reasonable pace. If she's fit enough, I think she'll be able to kick on. If she's needing one, she's probably going to start backing up pretty quick.
I do like the fact that you just started to move the hands there, but you had a double handful for a good while. It's going to be interesting to see if you can finish here and get the money at a nice price. Meanwhile, movie Muggsy on the lead, and here's Union Maiden with like a hit the afterburner or something, and had been hanging around the front and really made a nice move to the lead, eye-catching. The 6 backs out of it as if a short horse, and we'll see how this is going to come in the minute here with the 4 closing on the outside, and it looks like it will be a 7-4. Was that the 1 in between horses there, Matt?
Believe so. 1 was going to split those couple down there about 2-3 paths off the rail. Curious thing, from a speed figure standpoint, and I go back to the Pacific Classic last weekend. I'm always one to try to compare how horses perform, and then looking back and seeing, maybe they ran a career best, or had they just sort of plateaued and been running consistent numbers time and time again. This will be an interesting one to find out because I haven't been paying attention. I don't know how fast or slow the track is played today. I mean, Union Maiden kind of has been what she's been throughout her career, a mid to high 70 type. I'd be surprised if all of a sudden we get a pretty substantial move up, but she won that race rather impressively. So maybe you did get a forward move in her first start here as a 4-year-old.
It's entirely logical, and the barn just continues to completely be flying at this point. So it's more than a little notable when it comes to that. Okay, let's bring in one of our special guests today. We may have another one later. We'll see how that shakes out. But right now, I do want to bring in the author of a new book. He's written other terrific things before in terms of articles about the state of the game, an advocate for horsemen and the industry in general, who understands the game on a number of different levels. The book is called Inside Track: Insider's Guide to Horse Racing. And our guest right now is Donna Brothers. Donna, how are things?
Everything's good, Pete. Thanks for having me. Matt, haven't seen you forever. Good to see you.
Likewise,
you guys are like
Donna.
pulling rabbits out of a hat here, huh? You just like pull your bag of tricks out, and your viewers are just like, well, who are they going to have on next?
That is part of the fun here. And if you have a question for Donna, hit us up in the comments as well. We're obviously going to talk all about the book, but I do want to start off, Donna, asking you about a topic that Matt and I, both near and dear to our hearts, and you as well. I got to see you the other night in the flesh at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation barbecue at the barn. On this show, our proceeds from the contest we're playing go to the TRF and also the TAA, who do that pivotal work of accrediting the various aftercare organizations. But I'm curious, in your time in racing, how you've seen the aftercare movement evolve and change, and ask you to talk a little bit about what it means to you.
Well, aftercare was never a thing back in the early 2000s. I mean, this just happened, in the last, I would say, 10 years. Probably started in earnest. There were aftercare organizations before the TAA came around, but the TAA came into existence in 2013, really 2012, but started accrediting organizations in 2013. And before that, if you wanted to donate money to an aftercare organization, you had no way of knowing that the money was legitimately going for the aftercare of the horses, or if it was going for tequila, right? Like, you just really didn't know. Unless you were going to be boots on the ground at every organization you potentially wanted to donate to. So the great thing about the TAA is that, and you know all about it, Pete, but right now they have 81 different organizations that are accredited. They're all over the United States. For people who want to know, is the organization I care about accredited? First of all, it should be on their website. If it's not, you just go to TAA.com. You click on accredited organizations. You can even reorganize the list by state to see what's in your state. And so the TAA is really upped the game. But at the end of the day, they're an accreditation body and they're a fundraising body for aftercare organizations, but they're not an aftercare organization like the TRF that we were both at the fundraiser the other day. And so these aftercare organizations, still, it's incumbent upon them to raise a lot of the money that supports the horses. And so it's great to support the TAA. And if you only want to, donate to one place for aftercare, the TAA is a great place because it's a beautiful umbrella organization and those funds go right out. But it doesn't mean that you don't want to support ones that you really care about also individually. And to answer your question directly, it's come a long way. And it needed to.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Donna, you mentioned I haven't seen you in forever. I had no idea a book was on the horizon. Tell us a little bit about what we can find in the book.
Well, Matt, he told just a little bit of a white lie. So the book was actually written in 2011, and it's called Inside Track, Insider's Guide to Horse Racing, but it's been updated twice. So I updated it recently in 2020.
Updates count. Don,
Yes.
I worked in publishing a long time. An update is basically a new book.
Well, importantly, this update counted because the second edition was published in 2014. And can either of you think of what important thing happened in 2015?
I can think of a few.
I think there's a decent racehorse.
Yeah.
First time in 37 years, right? And so luckily I didn't get in a big hurry to update it, because then 3 years later we had Justify come along. And so now this update includes all those. Now, for the horse players out there who are thinking, I need to buy Donna's book. No, you don't. If you're a horse player, you don't need to buy my book for you. It is really a beginner's guide, but you need to buy the book for your sanity, because it really will help your friends who don't understand horse racing at all just start to figure out how to navigate the game. So every chapter in the book is a standalone chapter. So if you don't care about where jockeys come from, skip that chapter. It's not going to hurt you. If you do want to know more about how do you actually train a horse, read that chapter. And one of my favorite things about the book is that it really speaks to newbies to the game. So when I have friends who come to the track and it's their first or second time, and all of our Breeders' Cup and NYRA and all the tracks are going to kill me when I say this, but I tell them all the time, like, look, this beautiful racetrack was not built on the backs of winners, right? So until you figure out the game a little bit and know why you like a horse and what you want to do with that horse, bet with your friends. Like, just at first, just bet, I'm going to bet the 3 against the 7, and whoever's horse wins, the loser has to go get the car at the end of the day, or the loser has to buy the next round of drinks, or the loser has to buy dinner. And so just have fun for a little while until you really start to feel like, you know what, I'm ready to put some money through the windows.
Sounds like very, very solid advice. And on these shows, we have all manner. We do have some newer people who've heard about this concept and joined us for the deal that it is. And sometimes a primer on basic stuff. I love going back and rereading that. It can kind of ground you as a horse player, but certainly our audience all has people who have been asked by their friends who go and have that great day at the track, whether it's betting amongst themselves or piggybacking onto the bets of a more experienced player. And they say, where can I learn more? And the fact of the matter is that there are a handful of books out there for sure, but I still think relative to other sports and just other activities, we need to do more to give these new players an on-ramp into the industry. And it sounds like that's really what the book's trying to do.
Exactly. I mean, the new players aren't ready for Buyer's Guide to Speed, right? It's a great book, but the new players just aren't ready for that. So it's a really good starting point. And another important detail, there is a glossary of terms in the back. So all this inside language that we speak, it's all back there. Just get the book, look it up. When you're going to hear Matt say it, you're going to hear Pete say it, that inside term that they use, it's back there. Just look it up.
That's fantastic. A good glossary is very, very important. That book, again, Inside Track, Insider's Guide to Horse Racing. Is there a better place for people to buy it that benefits you or the industry, or is it more of a wherever you find your books kind of deal?
It's really on Amazon. Amazon's the best place, but 100% of the proceeds, by the way, go to the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. I decided to do that about a year ago because for the reason why, Matt, you think I just wrote a book is because I was always so reluctant to promote it because I didn't want people to feel like I was like trying to make money off the game. I wrote the book because I felt like it needed to be out there. And then about a year ago, I thought, you know what? I mean, I really didn't write it for money. I don't care about the money. I'm already charging the minimum price I can charge for a book that's got color photos in it on Amazon. And so for me, it was just more important that the book is out there, that people who are new to the game can read it. And if Thoroughbred Aftercare can benefit from it, that's all the better. And so all the proceeds go to Thoroughbred Aftercare. But you can go to donnabrothers.com, my website. There's a link for the book there. Or you can just go to Amazon, but make sure you get the third edition if you go to Amazon, because the first and second editions will disappoint you.
I'll send out a link on Twitter and make sure it's a link to the brand new version of the book so people can get it. And another way you can support Aftercare very easily with a copy of Donna's book. That's fantastic stuff. Before we let you go, Donna, I have a curveball question that I always like to ask people who once made their living as jockeys, who now make their living as racing analysts. Because, guys like Matt and I are here, and we're not beating anybody up or being overly critical, but we will sometimes say, not sure what was going on with the jockey's ride there. Maybe it would have been better served to do, or she would have been better served to do X, Y, or Z. How has your opinion evolved from the time you were a rider, hearing a guy like me who hasn't ridden a horse since I was, 6 years old, and it wasn't pretty then, to make a comment about a ride in a horse race, as opposed to now when it's a small part of what you're doing in your analysis of racing. How's your attitude evolved, or has it evolved?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it has evolved, because I feel like a horse player has a right to have an opinion. You put your money through the windows, you've got a right to have an opinion, right? And so whether or not they're right, I mean, sometimes we're wrong, and we know the sport really, really well. You and I, all three of us could be watching a race where certainly there looks like there's going to be an inquiry, and Matt knows the number's coming down. I think it should come down, and Pete's like, no way it's coming down, right? And we know the game. And so I think once you put your money up, you have a right to have an opinion. But I do think that, like, I read an article one day with a horse player who was disgruntled, and he said, and he was disgruntled with the jockeys in general. And he said, and as I'm watching the race right now, the horse that I bet on two horses, and one of them is trapped hopelessly on the inside, and the other one has gone hopelessly wide. And my thought was, pick one, right? Like, you can't, you're either going to take your chance on the inside or you're going to circle the field, but you can't knock both of those jockeys for that decision. That's funny.
That's too funny. I lied. I got another question for you. What has it meant to you to see the proliferation of success of so many female riders around the world, clearly every bit the equal, if not superior, of their male counterparts?
Well, it's no surprise to me, obviously. Let's back way up to 1969 when my mother was one of the first half dozen women to be licensed as a jockey in the United States. And she won 72 races that year. And by the next year, she was the leading rider at Waterford Park, which is now Mountaineer. And so she, she was proving herself to be a more resourceful and better jockey than the guys around her. And so I think the horsemen, the horse players, the other jockeys have always been open to the idea that women can be every bit as talented a jockey as the men can. I do think some of the other countries, like in England, it's been a little bit slower, in France also to evolve. So I'm glad to see that New Zealand has sort of led this movement where we've got so many women doing really well down there. Australia, women are doing decently well, but I do think it's becoming more ubiquitous, and it's about time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's been Australia, Ireland, England. It's been great to see.
Donna, I don't want to keep peppering you with questions, but this is kind of on a broader scale as we get closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup, specifically with the Classic division. Pete and I have talked about it kind of ad nauseum. Is there anyone that we're missing, that somebody that maybe isn't obvious outside of the Knicks Goes and the Essential Qualities and the Hot Rod Charlies of the world? Is there someone that we're missing that really deserves to be in that upper echelon as far as the Classic division is concerned?
Matt, you're the handicapper, and so is Pete. So if you guys are missing it, I'm not going to be the one to pick it up. So I'm just going to go with you guys on that one.
I trust your eye. I trust your eye for Horseflesh a lot more than either of ours. That's
100%.
I'll tell you what I love to do. And we've talked about this before, Matt. I like to see the horses live and in the flesh. And so I was there for the Jim Dandy. I'm going to be there for Travers Day. And the reason why I like to do that is because I want to see how much weight Essential Quality was carrying at the Derby versus how much she's carrying at, the Travers Stakes. Is he a horse who's maturing, or is he a horse who it looks like he's already peaked? And so I look at the horses all year long. I try to see them in the flesh as much as possible, because it's hard to keep a horse going all year long. And it's really important. We can all read the past performances at this point, but what the horse looks like on that day is super important. And so that will be what matters to me. When I see the horses in the post parade for the Breeders' Cup, that's when I'll really go, oh, wow, I didn't expect for him to look that good. Or, oh, wow, didn't expect for him to look that bad. So
I can't wait to hear what you think of Life is Good when you see him on the track for the Alan Jerkins on Saturday. This is a horse. He's been turning heads ever since. I mean, been turning heads since day one, but it sounds like he's trained up.
I saw him in a stall the other day.
How do you look in there?
Todd Fletcher's barn in the afternoon, and he's a looker. I mean, he's got the kind of weight you'd want to see on him. He's got the kind of cut in his muscle that you'd want to see, especially 7 furlongs off the layoff. But we know Todd can handle it. And I ran into Mike Smith about 2 weeks ago. He was here to ride. Ran into him at Salevo, of all places, restaurant here.
We like them.
Yeah, Saratoga. And he was so excited about this horse. Like, he said to me, Donna, this is the best horse that I've ever ridden at that stage of his career, ever. And I said, well, what about the getting out that he was always doing? And he said he had a physical issue that just wouldn't present itself enough for them to be able to find it. And so we really didn't know what that was about. He said, but he doesn't get out anymore. And he said, this is a really good horse. So I'm excited.
That's high praise.
Yeah, that's very high praise.
That is high praise.
Did Mike happen to be dining with a man with a very loud shirt when you were at Salevo? Is that possible?
Yeah, possible. Yeah, with some curly hair. I can't think of the guy's name. Yeah,
I think I know who you mean, though. Absolute last question. Where can we find more of you? We've had some questions in the comments about wanting to see you on horseback on TV broadcast. Where can folks find you in the near future?
Well, you should email my producer at NBC, Rob Hyland. So
we'll do it. We'll start the campaign. Grassroots right here.
I'm gonna blame a little bit of it. I'm just gonna say, first of all, I only work for NBC Sports, which is great. I love working for NBC Sports. We had no shows up here this year, though, at Saratoga. Last year we had the Alabama, which I covered because I'm here. But I haven't done any shows this year, and we didn't have any shows at Saratoga. Part of that was probably because of the Olympics, but Naira has partnered with Fox for the last couple of years on Travers, so we wouldn't have had that anyway. So the next show that I'm going to do is Breeders' Cup, and like the viewers who miss me, I miss doing the preps, but I'm there. I'm looking at the horses. If I'm not there looking at them, I'm watching it. So I'm doing the best I can, but it won't be till Breeders' Cup.
Well,
you can find me on Instagram, though.
That's
you can
good.
Find me on Twitter.
There you go. Give those handles if you have them memorized.
Well, they're pretty easy. The Instagram one is very cleverly brothers.donna, and the Twitter one is Donna B Brothers. So they're not too hard
to come up with those. Donna, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Donna.
Godspeed with the great work you're doing and raising money with this book. We encourage everybody to check that out, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
See ya.
Excellent. Good stuff. Great getting to check in with Donna for a few minutes there. I think we should go ahead and look at the leaderboard. Craig, what do you think? Because we're only 2 races left in this contest at this point. And the first thing I do is just wait for the name David Browning to
I was just
pop
looking for
out
the same thing.
But we have some other familiar names and people who've been accruing tour points there with John Twomey right there in first place with 68. John O'Neill in second. Is that NHC champion John O'Neill? I surely hope it is. I would think he'd be out in Las Vegas around this time of year looking to get back that NHC title from a few years ago. Mark Henderson, Derek Voigt, who's been very active in these contests and has a bunch of tour points. Bruce Meyer, another name up there. George Bosch, who I met at the Monmouth contest this year. Paul Sear, John Bull III, Ray DiCarlo, and another Bruce Meyer. And there he is in 11th.
There's that name.
Never too far behind David Browning right now in 11th. In the Money Media's own Michael Domable, off to a very good start. It's always fun when you see somebody who has those 3 scores together like Michael Domable does in 12th, 13th, and 14th, and see the rest of the way. Is he split or is he the same? And it looks like he's the same on one and split on another. So a chance to get some really big results if he can go runner with one of those entries. Matt Miller, great to see him out there. Can't remember if he's playing in the NHC this year or not. Obviously, big backstory. And there he is, from the Malice and the Palace to the leaderboard on horseplayers.com. Drew Coatney, there he is in 18th place, our business manager. Why don't we take a quick peek while we're doing leaderboards, Craig, at the leaderboard for the tour, if you know how to navigate over to that one. If it's a hassle, don't worry about it. We'll just...
While Craig's pulling it up, I'd be curious. We don't have enough data at this point to really say one way or the other. This is the first year we've done it this way. But Michael Domable, the way that he's approached it, and I know a lot of folks from a pick and pray standpoint, they will do something similar where basically the entirety of the ticket is the same, sans one race. And I wonder if that's your opportunity to really end up, especially as we get toward the end of the season here, the regular season, if you can have 2 or 3 entries within striking range, and then all of a sudden you're spread in that last leg, and you just catch with one of them, maybe that's enough to get you into, if it's not a top 2, exact punch or ticket to the playoff as is, maybe it's a top 3 kind of finish and you accrue points that way. I'd be curious. Again, it's too early to really say because this is brand new for us too, but I'd be curious if there may be something there as far as stylistically it's concerned.
I think it's an interesting idea. And there you see Michael Domable currently sitting in second place. He's got that 350, a bit to find with David Browning at his 610, but I think he still has some scores to fill in and improve. And it'd be fun to see, no offense, David, but it'd be fun to see somebody make you sweat a little bit here as we get to the end of the Horse Player Happy Hour regular season. Bruce Meyer, another name we saw right there, rounding out the top. We'll do these top 6 names that are on screen as you hear Muggsy, the handicapping Labrador, agitating in the background, reminding me that it's time for dinner. Bill Chenvert, third. Bruce Meyer, as mentioned, in fourth. Gregory Lewis, and then Todd Van Dree right now. Joe Salido, we've seen him on leaderboards a bunch, and there's Dylan Donnelly, who apparently somebody told me his for as much luck as he has, for as well as he does in contests, he does occasionally get star-crossed. Got somehow shut out due to a tech fail of betting a 9-1 in the last chance contest today out there in Las Vegas. A little bit of gossip I heard, but knowing Dylan, he'll just redouble his efforts and he'll get there anyway. But yeah, you can see, and then as you scroll down, what we eventually need to do is let you know which names are already into the finals, because we're going to fill out the finals, this sort of contest within a contest we're having after the regular season is over, with the top tour finishers. So I want to let folks know where the bar for that is, because it's probably not very high, and it's probably going to encourage people to play all the more and get involved.
Yeah, and I know initially when we were first bringing this up, we were talking with Jonathan about this too, and he was the one that kind of brought up the idea of the FedEx Cup for anybody that plays golf or watches golf. There's really a rush in those final few events that you can get points to try to get into the top 125, so you qualify for the first leg of the FedEx Cup. And I mean, it's not the same. We didn't totally mirror it. There are some differences, but there are many similarities. And again, to your point, all right, maybe you can't quite catch David Browning at this point, but you can certainly get yourself within that position that you can qualify for the postseason. And then keep in mind, it's only a handful of weeks. You're playing for another full $10,000 BCBC seat. So you have every reason to be getting involved in these final few weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to be in an 80-person tournament with a $10,000 prize. I mean, that's a cash value of whatever, $120 or $125, whatever it is. And that's available to anybody, I would say. You could be starting from now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to sneak into there if you have, you play 3 entries, pretty similar, and get them all up there in 1 week, and you're already going to have a competitive score. Not to mention if you've been grinding along and have a couple scores and are just looking to better them from here. But so all right, there's a look at our leaderboards. We've talked about the aftercare aspect. Did we mention this is only $20 to get involved in all this fun? That's something else that I really enjoy mentioning to people.
Well, and also I feel like fail on my part, and it's always one of those things until we get well beyond it. We're way late in the show. We're also playing for a qualified. The top 10% of the entries in this contest get into Saturday's BCBC qualifier.
Yes, I always forget to push that.
I'm right there. I'm just as guilty as anyone. But I mean, it's not like, if you're someone who needs that immediate gratification, you got it. Because if you finish in the top 10% this week, it'll be the top 13. You're playing again on Saturday. So, I mean, there's even more reason to continue to get involved.
Yes, and I should have done a better job. I guarantee you there are people who've played in this contest and at this point punch their ticket in what you might call the traditional way. And that's, a chance to talk about our friends at HorsePlayers.com and the fact that, they're offering qualifying opportunities all the time to get in for short money and have a chance to play in the biggest and best contest that the contest world has to offer, including this weekend's NHC and my personal favorite, the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge as well. We do have a couple of comments to get to. Howard, here's one that I think I know who this is, so I don't think it's like too cheeky, but have you gotten this before? Matt sounds like John Rothstein.
No, that's a new one. And I don't know if that has to do with me being as far away from the laptop as I am compared to my good microphone at home or what. But yeah, no, I've never.
College basketball pundit. Do you know? I barely know who it is, but I think
the name is familiar. But I can't say I've ever had that.
There you go.
I don't get a lot of people saying, you sound like so and so. Everyone just says you got a voice for radio.
As long as they're not saying you have a face for radio.
My wife does. She says that all the time. She goes, it's a good thing, you get the voice because the face is only for radio. I go, thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Howard chimes in. Haley Turner, yet one of those riders I was referring to. There's so many great ones around the world right now. And Trish gives Muggsy a shout out. Muggsy has been fed. You can probably hear her eating noisily in the background. Susan came down and took care of that little situation. Next, she'll bark at the door, reminding us she has to go out. And that one I'll probably just deal with myself. If I disappear for a minute, just tending to the Labrador. Let's check in at Saratoga. We got to be getting somewhere near our penultimate race on the card. Yeah, we got a little post-parade action there with 5 minutes to race number 9. Let's see what we can come up with in this one. I was a little spready in here. I wrote down 10, 7, and 9. It looks like I have correctly identified the top of the market. That's, it's more fun when you can land on horses that are going to be bigger prices. But I do think that Love and Money for Cherie DeVoe was pretty interesting on a pace angle with not much apparent pace signed on and this 1 mile inner turf 3-year-old filly stake, the risk averse. Thought that she had a valid chance to get out there and wire him. You see, when you look at the time form USPPs from the last day, that those early fractions were both coated red. That was in the first start for the barn. Coming back here in 40 days with the race over the course, I'd like to see if she might be able to meet out those fractions a little bit more evenly and could go a long way. The brown runners, I mean, they just all seem to be firing right now. Rastafara is one that I know was very well thought of back in the winter at Tampa. That was a large bet for me, a large fixed odds bet, because there was a decent price around about her, and pretty darn disappointing to see her go up by 2 in the lane and get beaten the nose in the end. She's come back since and finally won the maiden up here. The way the barn is going now, and that was a pretty nice race the last day, closing into some blue coated time form, finishing on what Paul Matisse would call an upline. And Rastafari's got to go forward, won't be too far back. So my thought is maybe bet the 10 to win and then save with the 2 Chad Brown runners, the 7 and the 9 over the 10. And then I'll probably play a little 7-9 itself in case Chad does that old trick of his where he just runs 1-2 in the turf stake at Saratoga. What are you seeing here, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of Captain Obvious. I went with Rastafari. I didn't know that the 7-2 was going to stick. For all the reasons you laid out, the way this one broke the maiden most recently, I think it's always worth noting whenever Chad takes a maiden winner last out and goes right into a stakes race, even if it's not a graded stake, that's certainly a vote of confidence. And the fact that she did it rallying into a very tepid pace. Something else, I'm as guilty of it as anyone, but always focus on that final sectional when it comes to turf racing. I think that the sectional just prior to that is equally as important. And for her to shade 24 for that one and then come right back in that final quarter in 23-1, nearly 23-2, I just think that goes to show that she's got a legitimate kick. Maybe the pace is a little bit different this time around, and maybe that late kick isn't quite as potent as it was. But I thought she made all the sense in the world. You brought up the outside runner. I think she's the most fascinating one in the group, because if Luis Saez can just get her to relax a little bit, because the way that she just spurted away, keep in mind, it was her first time going 2 turns in that most recent run. She had every right to get tired at the end of the run. If she can just harness it a little and save something, I think she's got a big chance in here to get the job done in her second start going a route of ground, first try going up against Stakes Company.
All very reasonable ideas here as we get within just a couple of minutes for the post time of the risk averse here at Saratoga. We can check in with some commenters. Tim drops a comment that's like, I'm not going to post it up there because it's long and it's very
paragraph and a half.
Yeah, it's very down the rabbit hole. But he just makes the point, which I think is a fair one, that I'll point out about. It would be great, especially, Donna's talking about looking at horses. He wants to see more HD video and HD replays and just a little bit higher quality of the streams available for horse players. And I can't disagree. I think as an industry, we've taken some steps in terms of getting better quality video out there, but I think we have a long way to go to maximize the real betting potential for horse racing, and especially when it comes to things like looking at replays and, of course, looking at horses in the flesh, something that I find exceedingly difficult to do on screen in the first place. And on a grainy, SD video, I got no shot. So I will, I'm not going to pop the comment up there, but I will just say that I think there's some good points mixed in there. Drew Coatney, the Bubble Boy, signing in. Good luck all. Barbara, I don't know who she's telling to stop about what. Hopefully it wasn't anything that we said. Howard back. Long shot. Who's going to win the NHC? Can you wager on individuals this year? I haven't heard a darn thing about the betting. So I'm going to guess maybe they didn't get that sorted out with the Gaming Commission in time. My bold prediction is somebody's going to hit a bonus this year. You got too many. You got more players playing for the bonus than ever before, and you got great players in those positions. I just, it's not based on. I think it's just a frivolous prediction. There's no data behind it. The raw math is more likely than ever before, but if you look at the numbers, it's still not terribly likely. But I had a lot of fun on our NHC preview show talking to a bunch of the potential bonus babies: Dylan Donnelly, Sally Goodall, Marshall Graham, and Scotty McKeever. We're all on the show there. How about you, Matt? Have you been talking to anybody who's heading out there? You got any particular routes or anything like that?
No, I honestly, I'm so far out of the loop as far as the NHC itself is concerned, and that's shame on me, simply because that really without the NHC, and I know some people, they bring up points that they have, and some of them are valid, and some of them I think are totally frivolous and stupid. But the idea of the NHC is still one of the best events going. It is, point blank. I am going to still sit here and say I think the BCBC is the peak, the pinnacle, but just in behind that to me is the NHC. And I wish anybody out there the best of luck. If you've never been out there, I would still strongly encourage you to try to qualify, if for no other reason than an experience. Even if you don't do well in the contest, to me, the one time I got to play and the 3 times I've been in attendance, it's had more to do with the atmosphere there. It's very difficult to replicate that kind of environment that the NHC has been able to do for, as long as it's been going on. What is it now? 15 years, 16 years, something like that, maybe even longer than that.
Longer.
It just, I would encourage anyone who has never tried to qualify or has thought about it and didn't quite pull the trigger. I would encourage you, at least give it a shot. Because if you get in, you're going to go out there, you're going to have a good time. I can promise you that much, even if you don't end up coming home, with riches and the title of Horse Player of the Year. It's a great time. It's a great environment. You're going to meet some great people. That's about it for me. I mean, I feel like it's still one of the premier events that we have.
Coolest Horse Player Party of the Year. I've got serious FOMO, especially hearing that. What really killed me is when I learned that Marshall and Pat and Eric Bialik and them are going to Din Tai Fung, one of my all-time favorites, now open in Vegas, and I don't get to go to Din Tai Fung, so that's a bummer. All right, we're coming to the real. Things are getting real here. Love and Money set out for the early lead as predicted. Looked like a bit of a runoff, but is now settled in. Rastafari, though, in a very realistic attacking position and making that move to the lead right now. It looks like she's going to go by Love and Money. Like that one is glued to the 8th pole, but the race ain't over.
No.
The draft is coming. The 8's trying to make a move, but Rastafari is finding. We're going to see. Oh, I said 8. It was the 1. Rastafari's home and host down here. I'm going to miss my exacta and feel silly about it. And this one's going to come 7, 4, and 2 across the wire in the risk averse at Saratoga. This Chad Brown, he's going pretty well right now.
I saw the quote. I don't know who posted it. I feel bad. I can't give credit. By the way, this is something else to keep an eye on. Watching tape. Look at her gallop out. So for a moment, I think we both thought right about here, she wasn't, well, not just yet. When the 1 split horses and the 4 got up basically to her flank, I thought for a minute she may have been not in deep water, but that it wasn't done. She galloped out about 7 lengths clear of everyone else. I do wonder if this is, and I don't know enough about Chamerdal as a sire, but you see Blame on the bottom. With the tactical speed she showed here today compared to some of her other runs, I do wonder if maybe at least try to stretch her out at one point. Maybe you go out to 1.25 miles, because it's not. I think I know a lot of people roll their eyes. Not a lot of people. Folks that watch tape, some of them hate the idea of a gallop out. That's fine. To each their own. I think there are things to be gleaned by watching the gallop out, even if it's not. It may not be something that's earth-shattering. It may not be the greatest gallop out of all time. It may be a horse that comes to a complete stop, and you go, you've hit the wall. You can't go any farther than that. This filly, for as lightly raced as she is, I don't know. I kind of look at that and think I wouldn't mind seeing her out at 10 furlongs at some point.
It's a critical part of the race, the gallop out. And, you have to view it in the context of the race dynamic. The race that falls apart and the closer who gets the perfect setup and gallops out like a wild thing, that is – the gallop out is just like an extension of the setup, essentially. But you see other things, and I think, Matt, you might be right that this might be one of them where you could see how easily the horse did it. A little bit more ground certainly makes sense. Now, I'm just looking at the genetic strength rating on Equinedge, which suggests that the best distance would be the mile, and they do go down. But that's one metric. The one thing I'll say that we've learned a lot of things about Chad Brown in his time at the tops of the training ranks, but he's very good at that game. And even when it's a hard game, bricks and mortar, does he cut back to the mile? Does he go out to the turn? He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So, I think it's one of those things where in him I would trust as far as that goes. But that was certainly an impressive performance by one who I know was regarded as a gorilla before had ever made a start. And was looking like maybe more of a chimpanzee, but I think is now back firmly in gorilla status after that impressive win. We'll see how it comes back in the clock and the figures and all that stuff. But yeah,
I think also a good thing for her at this point, being so lightly raced, you would assume she at least ran back to that maiden score, if not improved slightly. I'm trying to think, Chad, 3-year-old fillies, some of them are good, but I don't know that he has, what we've always come to think of with Chad, that especially for the, I don't want to call them younger horses, but this time in the year, 3-year-olds, he usually has one that's really kind of head and shoulders above. Who knows? I'll be curious what the next start is, but I'm immediately thinking something like the QE2 down at Keeneland, 1 1/8. That's not going to be an issue for her based on what we just saw. And if he doesn't have anything else that's, I would say, let's call it your prototypical Chad, the one that's got just the wicked turn of foot, doesn't really matter what the pace situation is. It feels like every year he's got at least one that turns into a really good older filly or mare, and even for the boys division. But I wouldn't be stunned, assuming this number comes back respectable. If they start thinking down that direction, thinking QE2 down at Keeneland, she could fit that bill pretty nicely.
That's a great call, and I'm excited to see what they decide to do. But that's certainly, to me, if you'd ask me, that would be the most logical thing. And I do think that 1 1/8 again restricted for this one, who clearly has upside, definitely be within reach. Production meeting in the middle of the show.
Yeah, buddy.
So we didn't do any Travers handicapping on the main show this week. We did sort of a simulcast edition because Naira have Michelle and I doing a live show from Naira tomorrow at 9. But not tomorrow, Saturday. Saturday also, we've got Spencer over at the Brentwood at 10. But I'm realizing that means we're not going to have Travers content potentially from now until then. Craig, why don't we do a poll of what we're about to do for the next 20 minutes? And let's bust through this pick 6 with all the grade 1s. Are you game for that?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to do a little reset here, and we'll and we can still, listeners, if you have questions, you know where we're going now. We're doing this pick 6, and I'm going to bring it in, and then we'll let me just pull up the right PPs, and we'll get this thing rocking and rolling, and then we'll pop it. It'll make people go to our YouTube channel. It's good. Yeah, which you basically single-handedly built, Matt. We appreciate that, and we're trying to keep going. PTF and Matt Bernier here to talk about the Travers Day all grade 1 pick 6. It starts off in race number 7 at 3:02 Eastern with the grade 1 Ballerina. And this is a race I think many are going to be willing to cede to the favorite. I think I'm going to try to get a little bit clever. But Matt, what do you think? How are you looking to kick off this all grade 1 pick 6?
I think it's a good group of fillies and mares, 7/8. Keep in mind, this is the same distance as the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint, so you can probably get a little bit of signal here as far as that race is concerned, just a couple months away now. As much as I appreciate CeCe, and I think Wisconsin is very talented, even a horse like Lake Avenue that I've been a big fan of for a long time, who's going to go with Gamine early? If Gamine shows up to me with her A- race, simply put, it's just better than what anybody else is capable of doing. I respect the other fillies and mares. It would have been nice if someone else had some legitimate early foot to go with Gamine, but if she breaks and goes right to the front, I think it's come and catch me. I think she's going to get the job done.
I'm definitely going to have plenty of 1s on my tickets. There's no doubt that her, like you said, A-, that's going to get it done. But she's clearly had issues. Now, I know just the fact that she's showing up here with the potential, for what the news story is going to be, being trained by Bob Baffert, etc. She's got to be loaded for bear. But I'll tell you what, I don't think CeCe is that far behind her. She's a multiple grade winner. I think the 7 is her ideal distance. She might need a little help on the front end to keep Gamine honest. But I think for me, she's going to be the bet at the prices. Now, I'm not getting knocked out of my pick 6 if Gamine wins, but I give CeCe a real look in here, and I made her my theoretical top pick. Any comments on her?
No, I think this is what she's wanted. I think she's a one-turn kind of horse, whether it's 7/8 or even a one-turn mile. I know that's really not available readily for fillies and mares, but this is her game. The question is, it's twofold. The pace situation, is she going to be the one that actually has to be in closest attendance to Gamine? And if that's the case, I don't like that scenario for her. And then there is a part of me too, as much as I like her and I respect her, she's got effectively 2 races that put her on par, I think, with Gamine. Now, maybe as a 5-year-old mare, she's finally putting it all together, and she's going to bounce back from that Princess Rooney, which to me was arguably the best race she's ever run. Maybe she can put together another one up at Saratoga. To your point, it depends on what kind of price you get. I don't think I would want much less than that 4-1 morning line that David Aragona has assigned to her.
Race number 8 is the Grade 1 Forgo, 7 furlongs on the Saratoga dirt. Not a whole lot of speed signed on for a Grade 1 sprint. How are you approaching it, Matt?
This is a division, just the older boys. They kind of take turns beating one another. Nobody really wants to assert themselves. And we'll get to the 3-year-old boys in a moment. I think they're actually the class of this group. But it's hard for me not to look at a horse like Yopon and say, if he runs his best race, purely, I think his best is better than anyone else's best. I can go through and start trying to make excuses for different horses. Whitmore, give him a mulligan for the Vanderbilt. He didn't run poorly, but I think he's actually better than what we saw there. And we know on his best day, he can still show up with a big, big effort. Mischievous Alex, I think you and I are kind of in agreement. Although he comes out of, the Met Mile 2 starts back, which ended up being a very, very live race. The Vanderbilt just was not very good. And what do you want to do with that? Some of the other horses in here, Lexitonian, I tweeted about it last night. I go, it's crazy to me that he's a nose and a head away from being a 3-time Grade 1 winner. He's not the most consistent type, but when he shows up with his race, he runs his race. So I wouldn't fault anybody there. Mind Control, I think Todd did a masterful job getting him ready to go in that run down at Belmont Park in the Nehrude. There's a part of me, maybe this is unfair. I want him to do it again to prove that he is actually of that caliber. Long-winded way of saying, I just think Yopon's best is better than anybody else's. I'm going to go with him.
I can see it. I have him in the mix. I think it's a bit of a class test, but there is a scenario, certainly, where he proves the best speed and just keeps on going. Not one I want to get beat by. I picked Whitmore. I don't pick Whitmore very often, but in my line, I was happy with my line in my write-up. I say he's listed in your program as an 8-year-old gelding, but he's really a unicorn. And what I mean by that is, how many horses do you know who've been running at the top levels for this long and just throwing so many punches? And even when they don't win, he pretty much runs his race every time. I thought there was a scenario. Now, I know I said, according to the pace projector, it does look like Yopon has a chance to be out there. But you got to figure Lexitonian is going to be incredibly aggressively ridden, given the success that front-running tactics had last time. I could see Firenze Fire maybe getting into the mix a little bit early. I can see a world in which this race is run to suit Whitmore. I wanted him, and I was going to do just a tiny little, tiniest percentage for horizontals, but definitely some third in the try type action on the 5 Doubly Blessed. And this is a reach, no doubt, but this horse is going to be an absolutely massive price, and I think has some good finishing ability. And if things do heat up unexpectedly, I think Doubly Blessed could get Doubly Blessed could get a little bit of a piece at a price. So those were my numbers in this spot. I called it 2, 7, and 5 in the Forgo. You mentioned the Jerkins. We teased it before. This unbelievable clash between Jackie's Warrior and Life is Good. In many ways, it looks like the race of the meet. I'm kind of buying into this Life is Good hype, and it's just also down to the fact that the numbers this horse was running early in the year, if he's trained on, even if he hasn't trained on, he's still probably faster than Jackie's Warrior. And if he's trained on a little, and he might have trained on a lot, I think he's supposed to win. Jackie's Warrior, I like him. I respect him. He'll be on some tickets, but Life is Good is my pick in the Jerkins. Where are you?
This may be a little bit of a cop-out, but I mentioned it on my pod a couple weeks ago. I was never all the way in on Jackie's Warrior, but I thought his Amsterdam was just so unbelievably good against a good horse and Drain the Clock that he just said, get out of here. I'm going on with it today. I fully believe in his ability. I wonder from a pace standpoint how this thing is going to shake down, because he's got to go. Drain the Clock's got to go. You look at some of these other runners in here, it's not like they're slow early. I think they're going to go a pretty legitimate pace. You brought up Life is Good. He's never passed anyone before. And I'm not suggesting he can't do it, but he's never done it. And that's just a fact of the matter. Until he does it, that's at least going to be in the back of my head. Are we, I don't want to say dismissing Following C too quickly. Following C, keep in mind, he was the kind of horse, and unless something has changed, he's not going to go. Look, they're both coming out of Todd's barn. This is a situation where you're running the big horse. Life is Good. You still come back here. You turn him back to a one-turn configuration. That, to me, they tried the Haskell. It didn't work. I don't know. I wouldn't totally write off a horse like this if they do end up going here in this spot, simply because I thought his one-turn races have been outstanding, and I wouldn't be stunned at all if he ends up kind of slipping through the cracks a little bit.
he's ideally suited for the cutback. I listed him third in my picks, and I think he's an excellent candidate for your verticals because, Jackie and Life is Good can't run 1, 2, and 3. So, and he definitely is the other interesting horse. I think in a normal King's Bishop, he'd be a fantastic wise guy horse. I just think he's got a bit to find with those top two. We'll see how it all shakes out in the Jerkins. I'm really looking forward to that one, which brings us to the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. 4 and up fillies and mares going 1 1/8 on the Saratoga dirt. Who'd you end up with in here?
As awesome as the Jerkins is, this may be the race that I'm most looking forward to because you've got, for the most part, you've got the big girls in the distaff division. You've got Latruska. You've got Swiss Skydiver in here. You've got a horse like Bonnie South, who she's shown glimpses in the past. As time goes by, she had a terrible start at Del Mar and that Clement L. Hirsch more or less draw a line through that. I don't know. I go through this thing a few different times, and I think pace is important. You want to be forward going 9 furlongs, but if too many of them decide that they want to have that same piece of real estate, does it help set it up from someone for a little bit farther off of it? And look, I get it. She's slow right now, and maybe she's just not this good from a class standpoint. I just think Graceful Princess is a little interesting for Todd. On the far outside, no bargain, trying to break from out there. Johnny takes them out because Joelle stays aboard Royal Flag. I thought the run in the Molly Pitcher was really good. She was wide throughout. I loved how determined she was. I know that was a bit of a 3-horse blanket, but Beijing Girl came back and earned an 86 in her next start. There's a part of me that wonders, draw a line through that Obeah because she just can't stand up on a wet track. Her 2-turn fast dirt trips here in 2021, they've both been really, really good. And I happen to think she's a little better from off of it as opposed to going out and cutting out the fractions like she did in the Double Dog Dare when both Bonnie South and Royal Flag went by her. I just think at a big price, maybe she can't win the whole thing, but I would certainly want to be using her underneath. I want to give Graceful Princess a look.
We're going to do a reset within a reset here, Matt.
Oh, no.
I'm going to do a little thing no, it's all good. I'm going to do a little thing to tee this up for Breeders' Cup social media. And then, so I'm going to do mine quick and then throw it back to you just to give like a 2-sentence version of yours, if
Perfect.
you like that. PTF and Matt Bernier here for the Breeders' Cup, part of our Horse Player Happy Hour shows. You can participate over at horseplayers.com. We're here to talk about Grade 1 action at Saratoga on this Saturday in the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. This is a win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. And I'm going to go with the most famous horse in the race, I'm going to call her. Is she the best horse in the race? I don't know, but I'm a huge Swiss Skydiver fan. And when I look through her form, I see excuses in over her head in the Whitney. I wasn't wild about the ride that she got. I didn't think she had a good trip, particularly in the Apple Blossom. When you X out those races, you see a really good filly who still has some upside. I definitely understand the case for Latruska. She's been so good this year. Could have the pace edge. Will be in the mix somewhere. Royal Flag gets a little bit of a class test, but very solid on figures. Should be a good price, and I still think is a win candidate. But I'm going to key around Swiss Skydiver in this spot. But, Matt, I know you've got an interesting long shot to throw in the mix as well.
Well, look, I mean, the heavyweights of the division are in this race. Latruska, Swiss Skydiver, Royal Flag, Bonnie South when she shows up with her best run. Coming in from the West Coast for Baffert, you've got as time goes by. I just think many of those girls want to occupy the same piece of real estate. And if that's the case and things heat up a little bit on the front, I recognize maybe she's not classy enough. Maybe she's not fast enough right now. But Graceful Princess for Todd, I think she's at least worth considering underneath. Maybe she can't win the whole thing. I'll probably have a few dollars on her, but I think she can round out an exact or a try at a big, big number. I thought the Molly Pitcher was a really good effort. She was wide throughout and just really kicked on determinedly down the lane. Draw a line through that Obeah 2 starts back at Delaware. It was a sloppy sealed track. She can't stand up on a wet track. Her 2 fast strip starts here in 2021, the Double Dog Dare and the Molly Pitcher, they were both competitive. In the Double Dog Dare, frankly, I don't think she wants to be on the lead. I think she would rather be the one to sit off of a target and come with her run. Johnny takes them out here. She's won at Saratoga in the past. Her mom was pretty good, Hav de Grace. I want to give her a look in here at a big number. So Graceful Princess for me. No disrespect to the other big names in here, but I want to shop around and get a little creative.
Can't wait for the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. Winning your in action for the Breeders' Cup on Saturday, which brings us to another Breeders' Cup win in your in race. It's the Grade 1 Sword Dancer, 4-year-olds and up, going 1 1/8 on the inner turf at the Spa. I'm going with the Invader, Japan. This is a horse who It wasn't clear if he'd done much training on, but seems to have gotten back on the good foot with the Group 3, I should say, win at Leopardstown just 44 days ago. I think if he's back anywhere near his best form wins this race. Now, the O'Briens, especially the Galileos, they're not always suited to tight turns like the Sword Dancer, like the Inner here at Saratoga. They're strong gallopers. Typically, they're not horses that have a quicken. But I think this race should be run at enough of a clip to suit him. I think on class, he's simply the horse to beat. I will be mixing in a little bit of Channel Maker. I feel that I was not thrilled after the last race, but looking back, was attending a fast pace, and it was off a layoff, has previous races good enough. I'm going to play the 6 Japan, using a little bit of Channel Maker and a little bit of your boy, Matt Treboeven, the 1, looks like potential best speed and dangerous off that basis. I was going to try to get out 6, 4, and 1 in the Sword Dancer. How did you see it?
But before I offer up my opinion with Japan, is it as simple as last year he took on far superior? This year, I don't know what you want to make of it. Maybe he doesn't love the ground. I'm with you. I mean, his 2019 form, his 3-year-old campaign, I think it puts him right there. Just you being the Euro expert, what's the sort of thought behind him here coming to the States now?
It might be that they still have doubts about his ability to compete at the upper levels over there. So, he's going to look a lot better shipping west and facing inferior competition. So, I mean, I think, and in terms of a horse's value, a grade 1 is kind of a grade 1, and that they must believe that they still have some stallion making to do with this horse. While he is a Group 1 winner, multiple Group 1 winner, the fact that they've kept him in training, maybe they think he's got a little bit more to accomplish. Maybe they think he runs well here, he can come and stand here too. There could be some other levers at play. It's certainly an economic decision based on class and the big picture of this runner's future.
Look, maybe I'm getting a little overzealous and I'm feeling frisky here. You brought it up. I like Treboeven. I've liked him for a long time now. Not only do I like him, I'm starting to get a little look over there saying, does he have a chance to Highland reel the field in the Breeders' Cup turf? Because realistically, who else is going to go if it's not Channel Maker? And to me, this is a pretty important race for Channel Maker. He loves Saratoga. He's won this race in the past, or run well in it anyway, I should say. He's the kind of horse that if he doesn't come back with his best race, and he did, in fact, win this race last year by open lengths, if he doesn't run his best, you got to start to wonder if at 7 years old, maybe he's lost a little bit on the fastball. You take him out of this division, who else is going to go the speed or the kind of tempo early on that Treboeven can? And I think the thing that I like the most about him, I think too many people are of the impression that he's a need the lead type. I maintain if Channel Maker is just absolutely hell-bent on making the lead, go ahead. Sit just off him. Be the one to get first run. He's shown in the past that he can kick and pass horses. I'm just, again, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. But the more and more I start looking at these things, I go, who's going to run with him in these biggest races? We've talked about it. It's been a major issue in the United States in general. Long-distance turf racing, nobody wants to go. You know where this horse is going to be. He's going to be, if not outright on the lead, just off of it. He's going to get the jump on anyone trying to rally from the back of it. And I've said it so many times. If you're going to be the kind of horse that is rallying from way out of it, and I'm basically looking at Gufo, maybe he'll win on Saturday, but you need to be able to kick so much harder than the horse who's going to start 5 or 6 lengths in front of you that you're just that far superior. And to me, I don't even know if I believe that Gufo is actually better than Treboeven. I think Treboeven is a legitimate grade 1 class, top of the just upper echelon kind of turf runner. I think he wins this race, whether it's on the lead or sitting just off. And I think after that, people are going to start to look around and say, wait a minute, maybe he's, domestic spending deserves the headlines. Maybe he's not that far off. And again, tell me if I'm going crazy.
No, I think you're making a good point, and the speed and that tactical advantage that he has are going to play well in a lot of these longer races. I absolutely get him. And if he blows up this field, I think you're exactly right. I mean, obviously, I put him in the mix, but was going to try to take others against him at the presumptive prices. But we'll see. Japan's another one that, for international viewers, potential arbitrage opportunities here, looking at the different markets and prices, because I've got to think Japan's going to be like a pretty heavy favorite in overseas markets, which, I'm not nearly as thrilled at. I was taking the David Aragona 9-2 line pretty literally when I put him on top, but maybe Treboven over there ends up being 6-1, and at which point he'd become the no-brainer play. So you really got to pay attention and see if you can figure out what's happening when it comes to this race this year. Anything else on this matter? We ready to move on to our pay race?
Just real quick, a question for you. What do you think of Moretti? Is he a de facto MTO, or do they actually go here?
It's a great question. I was hoping he'd go. In picking against Treboven, I was hoping he'd go, because I do think his only chance would be to lead, and it would put pressure on Treboven. Now, Treboven might be able to shake him loose and go on with it. It's not like Moretti being in the race and going to the lead makes it impossible for him to win, but I was taking it literally. I don't think there's a world in which we'll get enough rain from here to push this race off. But maybe at the time of entry, somebody was just being optimistic. But I kind of don't think so. I feel like he's in here to just see what they got. And there's enough. Look, there's some talented horses in here for sure. But you just look at this division over the course of the last 2 years, and the idea that you'd want to just take a wild shot with a horse like Moretti, that sounds smarter to me than it does silly, if you catch my drift.
100%.
So I think that's what we got going on there. Let's talk about the Travers, my friend. Signature race of the Saratoga meet in so many ways. We've got these 3-year-olds. They're going 1.25 miles for the Midsummer Derby, one of my favorite races. I've only missed it. I've missed it actually twice, not just the COVID year. I did miss it one other year, but I've been here for every one since about 1996. And I think this could be a memorable edition of the race, but I think it's going to be memorable because I think it's going to be where Essential Quality really asserts himself as the best in his division, at least until this point. I think this is a horse who just has to move forward off the last race. I felt like that was the time he was maybe going to be vulnerable, and he still won, getting what I thought was a very tricky trip. I think he moves forward in the second start of the meet for the race he was primed for, at the distance he's going to be better at. I think they're all running for second. Call me Team Essential Quality.
I'm right there with you. This is going to be a pretty large bandwagon that we've got going with Essential Quality on Saturday. I feel like he had everything possible go against him, in my opinion, in the Jim Dandy, and he still won. That's going to be a race, to me, you're going to look back and say the half-length margin of victory is as deceiving as it could possibly be. I think he was 3 or 4 lengths the best. There is a part of me that wonders if he loves Saratoga, and that's nothing more than conjecture. With the way that Luis Saez had to ride him around that far turn, we've seen that in the past, that some horses, just for whatever reason, they don't love it. But I also think it may be a little bit of a crutch for me to even throw that out there, simply because he's traveled everywhere and run his race everywhere. So why all of a sudden would Saratoga be something different? He's supposed to win this race. And to be honest, it would almost be, we're at a situation now, in my opinion. I said it going into the Pacific Classic last week. You need to be, it's the time of year to put up or shut up. You either belong in the Classic or the Breeders' Cup conversations, or you guys need to sit back and sort of reassess what your actual long-term goals are. Essential Quality is going to go to the Classic, I would think, no matter what. But this is an opportunity for some of these other horses who are more lightly raced, or perhaps don't have the sort of CV that this horse does, to at least throw their name into the hat and say, you know what, the Classic, maybe we can't beat Essential Quality, but we can run third, we can run fourth. That's what I'm more interested in seeing. If for whatever reason this horse loses, then all bets are off. And I think you got to start really looking at that division going, it's Nick's go, it's Hot Rod Charlie. Maybe you give Essential Quality a mulligan depending on how poorly he runs. But if he, for whatever reason, loses, I think it just kind of adds to the top-heavy nature of that group.
If I made you pick an alternative, who would it be?
Yeah, look, I thought long and hard about this. I went through, and there are so many things that I don't love about some of the other horses. I really was impressed with Dynamic One. I thought that run in the Curlin was strong. To me, he wants to run 10 miles, never mind 1.25 miles. The concern is, how far back is he going to be? He's not the horse that is, most blessed with early foot. I think he is a proper stayer. And you can make the argument the Curlin, you look at the way the race was run, the last move was the winning move. So perhaps a horse like Miles D, you want to give a little more extra credit to, because he moved first and Dynamic One followed him. But I was just so taken by that stretch run. of dynamic ones. I don't know if it's enough to win, but to me, I've done a little analysis. I've had to write a couple things. It's a cold 2-4 punch. I think it's essential quality over dynamic one.
I like the sound of it. It's creative getting dynamic one up in there. I'm not ready to fully give up on Midnight Bourbon's chances in this race. I mean, it's a bit of a story, and I'm not saying he was going to necessarily even go close in the Haskell, but he has excuses for these last couple of races to me. I mean, that, if only being off the layoff and in obviously just a race where we don't know what would have happened in the last furlong there. Again, not saying he would have won, but it might have been a race he could have benefited from. But the Preakness was a pretty good race, attacking that fast pace and just going down to the perfect trip winner. And if you accept it through that lens and you build in some speed figure improvement for the months in between, there's a world in which, I mean, I'm 80-90% through essential quality, but I'll have a couple of lines. We are ready to be joined now, Matt, by our final special guest of the show. She's joining us here from some sort of watering hole, it looks like. That would be within, a character for this guest. We'll get all the particulars on what she's been up against. I mean, she's let's just bring her in right now. Michelle Yu, what's going on?
I'm literally sitting. Can you hear me?
Where are you?
There I am. Oh, hey, okay. Literally in the gutter on the side of the street.
Is this Caroline Street? Where is that Tin and Lint that you're in front of? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and yes. It's actually Zoe Cadman's birthday today.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm great friends with Zoe. She's actually the godmother to my son. So I was on Fox today. I was like, I have to come out with Zoe, and we ended up at the Tin and Lint, and now I have to call a race. So I had to come outside, and there's no chairs or benches. I literally am sitting on the curb, but that's okay.
This is fantastic.
Live from the gutter. That could be the name of your solo record too. Live from the gutter.
This does not have a good luck. I apologize, Breeders' Cup. This is not like normally how I'm still in my outfit though. I mean,
you look great. You look great.
But the problem is there is no service in the Tin and Lint, because on Carolyn Street, if you go into a lot of the bars and restaurants, like what used to be one Carolyn Street and now the Cellar, and into the Tin and Lint, it's all underground. So there's just no service. So I had to come outside.
Michelle, let me interrupt
like a very
you.
pedestrian neighborhood. Okay.
No, you're great. But let me just correct you with one thing there. Carolyn Street is like saying Versailles, Kentucky. It's Caroline Street.
Caroline.
Caroline.
Okay,
there
sorry.
you go.
Caroline Street.
And then
don't you remember that really good race mare that Rusty Arnold had? One Caroline.
One Caroline. There, you're across the street from the location. That's right there up by Broadway. Look straight ahead and then left, and you'll see the former location of one Caroline.
It's now it's the Cellar, which I mean is appropriately named because it is like you have to walk downstairs. I haven't eaten at the Cellar, but like when One Caroline was here, it was amazing. It was literally my favorite restaurant in Saratoga. It had this like little piano, and the food was like pretty much farm to table every day. Like they changed the menu all the time. It was awesome. I loved it.
All right, we're getting ready. They're going in the gate here. Are you all prepped? Do you have your colors?
I've got my notes right here.
We'll send this one out in the gutter to Michelle Yu.
Well, thanks so much. We appreciate that as we get ready to close in on the nightcap today. They're obviously on the turf course is what it looks like right now. So I'm glad to at least be that far along. Horse is still loading in. I'm not sure who the favorite was because the odds went way too quick for me to check them. But we'll get that going here in just a second. I didn't get to hear, so I don't know if I should be cheering for a horse or not cheering for a horse.
I didn't give any picks. Oh no! Did you have the phone?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but no, what happened was my ear pod dropped out. Oh,
okay.
Thank you.
That's trouble.
All right, here we go. Horses still in the gate, and they're off. And unfortunately, my screen froze. I'm not quite there. There we go. All right, fast getaway there. First off claim, and he's going to be in front. Coming along right behind him is the 6 Encrypted with Manny Franco aboard there, and those two going to set the pace. Right behind them is Look for Loki. For all you Marvel fans, that horse is going to be pressing the pace right now, which is going to be set by Encrypted. Encrypted in front, but now fast getaway. He's going to be Quinn Luis Saez, who looks to increase his lead in the jockey standings here as they're going to turn for home at the top of the stretch right here. It's still going to be Fast Getaway for the lead. There's a bevy of horses right behind him, and it looks like the one might be coming up here. XY Speed going to be making a case for the victory with Fast Getaway still on the front end. Is it going to be XY Speed? Is it going to be Fast Getaway? Or all the way on the outside, here is Mystery Messenger with Rosario aboard. The three of them very close to the wire. And my screen froze. I have no idea. I literally have no idea.
That was
well
amazing.
done.
That was an amazing call. Given everything you were dealing with there, that was, in many ways,
Given
your best
everything.
yet. Literally in the gutter,
horse.
without pictures. And
She
I
picks
think
up the horse rolling down the
Yeah.
center of the track.
And
so
I
it
think
was
you're correct.
fantastic.
I think it was the far outside, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, I have a bad feeling that might be a gnarly beat for our friend Jonathan Kinchin, with whom I spoke about this race with. I don't know.
Oh,
if
did Kinchin like another horse? I wish you had told me. I would have talked smack about it.
he liked that one I know who was making the late move. But let's wait for the photo before we.
I don't even think the one figures in the picture.
It was the three who battled back.
Yeah.
He liked it 3-1-1-3.
Yeah, it was the three who battled back.
Yeah, but we'll see. Hopefully, he threw in
that
his
was a
paper
really
in the
great
night.
race from the three. I mean, this is why Mike Maker is almost 20% first off the claim, right? He came this horse out of a New York bred, optional 40 dominance of two other than. He set the pace and wasn't able to hold on. He puts him in here for the 32, but you get open company. And it was almost a lateral move, and he ran so good. Mike Maker is so good off the claim. I mean, I guess he could have run him in a great stake, but really he just put him in the right spot. It was a good effort.
Oh, that's great. All right. Good stuff, Michelle. We'll see. We'll get this official photo. We'll let you go. We'll do the leaderboard. Where's dinner tonight?
I think I'm actually going to JK's place, but not with JK.
I don't know. He might not like that.
Silvero, is that the name of it?
We got to work with you on these names in Saratoga.
Tomorrow night is JK is supposed to take me to his place.
Okay.
But
so you're going
I'm
2 nights in a
dinner
row.
with other people. It just so happens to be. I hope the food is as good as you say it is, because apparently that's what I'm doing. I did get to Mrs. London today, so I got my my croque monsieur, which I love, and I got a nice decaf coffee, and I'm just a huge fan of Mrs. London, so that made my day. And now I've had drinks at the Tin and Lint, and I'm about to go shopping and buy a gift for my kids.
Fantastic. It was the 9 who wins that photo over the 3 Fast Getaway and the 1 XY Speed back in third. Have fun at Slivo. Don't get the Brajol, because I want to make sure there's Brajol left when I get there at some point this weekend. No Brajol for you.
I don't like Brajol, so I will not be ordering Brajol.
On that note, we're going to let you go.
And I'll send it to you. I don't want it.
Michelle has very good opinions. Typically, this is a poor one. But it was wonderful having you. You've got
hell of a race caller.
Yes.
Hell of a race caller.
Derek, we'll give you one comment before you go. Derek finally checked into the hotel room for the shoot today in time for the call. Talk about perfect timing. Good stuff. Good
Incredible.
stuff. Well, no good deed goes unpunished. You and I at the track Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Don't drink too much Friday night. I need you there bright and early. And we're going to have usually they say that to me. When I'm saying that to somebody else, that's trouble. But it's wonderful seeing you seriously, and we love having you here.
I will be there bright. I will be there bright and early, Pete. You don't worry. I mean, even though I'm on West Coast time, I'll still be able to be there on time in full makeup and hair and everything.
Beautiful, beautiful. You can do barn clothes if you need, but if you want to dial up, that's even better.
Hopefully your lighting though is better than the lighting in the gutter right now, because the lighting right here is horrific. Congratulations to whoever won the feeder here for HorsePlayers Happy Hour, guys. I'm gonna sign off. I only have 3% left battery, and I need to use Uber to get home. So
get out of here. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Matt, love to see you as always. Pete, glad your internet's working right
now. Michelle, everybody. Let's let her get out of here. Let's do this leaderboard, and I got to get dinner myself. No Salivo for me. That I'm really worried.
I tell you what, but I'm washed out right now.
Yeah, you were not.
I got a vein popping in my forehead right now. You
were not lying. You were not lying about the prevailing conditions. Let's do these qualifiers. Top 13 win a $179 entry into the 828 qualifier. We'll go, and then the top 2 get into our playoffs. They were there all day. John Twomey and John O'Neill. Great to see John O'Neill's name up there. I'm going to text him or call him later, and maybe we'll get him on a show. One of the great ambassadors for contest play. Love to see him there. Claps to John as well. Mark Henderson, Derek Vogt, who we just heard from, gets a nice result there in fourth, picking up more tour points, could shake things up. John Bowl, Bruce Meyer, he's right there in the tour too. They're creeping up towards David Browning, Mark Winland, Jason Kudla, George Bosch, Paul Sear, Ray DiCarlo, Bruce Meyer, Bruce Meyer, I should say. And then Daniel Lucero in 13th. There are your winners for today's contest. Come back and join us next week. Play maximum entries. Help us out. We've got to vote with our dollar. We want cool things like this. 20,000 added to the prize pool at no cost to players to continue. We've got to support it with our dollars. The numbers have been solid, but I wanted them to be spectacular. There's still time to get there with a few weeks left. Any closing thoughts from you, Matt Bernier, before we send this thing home?
Yeah, we're going to have to talk off air about how we're going to navigate next week, because next Thursday I think we're going to be in the same area. So
I bought a headphone splitter. So plan A is we use this laptop. We do the headphone splitter. We sit it in the Brentwood potentially and do it. But we'll see. I think it might be as simple as that.
Great. Looking forward to the racing this weekend. We'll see if Essential Quality can kind of continue on. We talked about those other races there in the Pick Six, and again, I said it on my show earlier this week, and I'll leave it on this. It's not too early to start thinking Breeders' Cup, simply because some of these horses, this is going to be the last time you see them before the first weekend in November. Many of them aren't going to have another prep. Some of them will, but there are going to be a handful of horses that you see them this weekend or you see them next weekend, Labor Day weekend at Saratoga or Del Mar. That's it. You're not going to see them again until Breeders' Cup. So start doing your homework, get familiar, especially with those Europeans, because I'm as guilty as anyone. Now's the time to start familiarizing yourself with some of those names that have at least been thrown out there as potential to come over here to run down at Del Mar.
We're going to do more coverage than ever on the European contingent over at In the Money Media. Let's do some thank yous. We're going to thank you, Matt Bernier. We're going to thank HorsePlayers.com. We're going to thank the Breeders' Cup, especially Hallie Amos, who's been so fantastic to deal with. Justin McDonald as well. Complete pleasure all the way around. Great to have that team in the corner. Producer Craig, who was back with us for this broadcast. We got to thank him as well. Donna Brothers, great having her in the house. And Michelle Yu, I always enjoy the approach she gives me. She's so entertaining and so cool and fun. We're blessed with great guests today. Thanks, though, most of all, to all of you out there. In this case, I usually say listening, but really it's viewing for Horse Player Happy Hour. Again, join us next week. We'd love to have you. Play in the game, horseplayers.com. This show's been a production of the Breeders' Cup and In the Money Media. On our side, our business manager is Bubble Boy, Drew Coatney. Our chief creative officer is Mr. Salivo himself, Jonathan Kinchin. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatow. May you win all your photos.